evening, friends. Father Frank Pavone here, National Director of Priests for Life, coming to you a little later than usual here from our Priests for Life studios, but glad to be with you anyway. I was just on a national conference call with the regional coordinators of our Silent No More campaign. We have that call every month right at the beginning of the month, and we talk with them about how to promote the campaign in their own areas and how to work more effectively. So that's what I was doing at 9 o'clock, and now I am with you, and boy, there's a lot of stuff to talk about, including some real wacko stuff that guess what party is doing, and its representatives. Really wacko, crazy, radical, offensive stuff that the Democrats, once again, on the federal level and on the state level, are carrying out. You know, they always overplay their hand. They can't help themselves. They are ruining their prospects for the elections of 2020. And as far as I'm concerned, go right ahead, friends. Ruin your prospects for the elections of 2020. I'll be commenting a little bit more on that in just a moment. But let's start with prayer from my book, Pro-Life Reflections for Every Day. Second book of Kings, chapter 24, verse 4 says, "For he had filled Jerusalem with innocent blood." Reflection: the difficulties God's people encountered from the enemies around them were not the result of military or political flaws, but of moral flaws. Chief among them was the shedding of blood by child sacrifice. The strength of a people begins with its moral character and that of its leaders, as well as its fidelity to the Lord's covenant. Let us pray. Lord, you hate the shedding of innocent blood. Protect and forgive your people and bring us to the promised land of eternal life. Amen. You can get Pro-Life Reflections for Every Day at prolifereflectionsforeveryday.com. So who in the world is Brian Sims? Who in the world is this guy? Where did he come from? Who elected him to the Pennsylvania State Legislature? And what on earth is wrong with him? Go to my Twitter account, FR Frank Pavone. If you're not subscribed, if you're not following me on Twitter, tonight's the night to connect. And follow me on Twitter, FR Frank Pavone. Friends, we've got some work to do. And you'll see there on my Twitter feed, we posted it early today, the unbelievable video of, this would be erratic and this would be maniacal of anybody to do just as a private citizen. But this man is elected to the state legislature? Oh my gosh, what kind of voters have we got out there? State Representative Brian Sims, oh, what a surprise, a Democrat and an LGBT activist. He did two things on these videos. Hey, Brian, I hope you're watching this video. He harasses, oh, that's a word the other side loves to use, right? He harasses a peaceful woman protesting an abortion facility, a baby killing facility, mind you, and yells and shouts at her, and shame on you, man, for standing out there thinking you know what's right for other people's bodies. And then he asks her how many children she has clothed and how many children she's put shoes onto their feet. Oh, Brian, you have absolutely no regard for people's bodies. What in the world are you talking about? Thinking you know what's right for other people's bodies. Let me ask you, State Representative Brian Sims, Democrat, what do you think is right for people's bodies? That they should be dismembered or that they should be protected? Tell me right now. I'm telling you, friends, I don't know where these people come from. I really don't. And this man was elected to the state legislature? I've got a message for some voters out in Pennsylvania, and believe me, like I told this, I don't know what to call him, on my Twitter feed tonight, and again, it's FR Frank Pavone, follow me on Twitter. I told him just a little while ago that I am going to be communicating with the people in the area of Pennsylvania that he represents about all this. And I said, just keep it up. Keep showing these videos. Keep showing this maniacal behavior out on the sidewalk against people who are standing on the public sidewalk of America praying to stop the slaughter of babies. And then he's got the demented arrogance to say to her, to shout at her, shame for thinking you know what's right for other people's bodies. Do you laugh? Do you cry? Do you shout? Do you pull out your hair when you read something like this? What's right for other people's bodies? Again, State Representative Brian Sims, Democrat. What is right for other people's bodies? You don't know the difference between, let's see, maybe it's right to protect their body from dismemberment and decapitation? Hold on, Brian. Hold on just one second. I hope you're watching this video. Come on, Brian. Wake up. You were elected to public office. Well, why in the world do we have public servants who can't tell the difference between serving the public and killing the public? You know, friends, if a politician can't respect the life of a little baby, how's he supposed to respect yours? If someone elected to public office doesn't know the difference between serving the public and killing the public, they don't belong in public office. Look at this. This is an abortion. What's right for the body? That the arms and the legs be torn off like this? Is this what's right for people's bodies? He's harassing this woman. And he's saying, oh, shame on you for thinking you know what's right for other people's bodies. Which bodies you talking about, Brian? Look, just take a few minutes to look at this. I don't know what goes through the heads of these legislators, whether they're on the state level, federal level, governors, and when they stand up for something like this. What do you think a man like this would do if he was invited to come to a wake service for an aborted baby? Look into the casket and see the dismembered arms and legs. What's right for people's bodies? Give me a break. And then he says to, oh, how many children have you clothed? How many children have you put shoes on? What kind of a question is this? Really? Do we ask this question of those who protest gun violence? How many of the gun victims have you taken into your home, paid their medical bills, gave them new clothing for the clothing that was ripped up by the gun bullet? What are we trying to say here? That unless we personally feed, clothe, and shelter each and every victim of violence, that we can't protest the violence? Is that what you're saying? You know, people try to use this against us pro-lifers all the time. It's really a stupid argument. It's like somebody, well, let's take child abuse. Oh, the voices that are raised against child abuse, especially when the abusers are priests. Now, shame on those clergy that have done terrible things to children. Shame on them, and they should be punished too. But brothers and sisters, do you hear the folks that are protesting against this, including all sorts of folks at all ends of the political spectrum, ever say that unless you take these children into your home and into your arms, and you provide for them, and you protect them, and you feed them, and you clothe them, you have to shut up about stopping the abuse against these children? Since when? What about spousal abuse? It's like a man who's beating his wife, and we stand up and protest and call for him to stop the violence, and he turns around to us and say, well, unless you marry her, you don't have anything to say about this. Oh, well, yes, we certainly do. You know, That's why I said to this guy, just keep it up, okay? Just give us another video tomorrow. Give us another video the next day until the day, right up until the day that you're going to be booted out of office, kicked out, voted out. Then he puts up another video, Brian Sims, Democrat. $100 reward for anyone who could release the personal information of 3 young girls protesting outside of a Pennsylvania Planned Parenthood. And then he says they're pseudo-Christian protesters who have been out here shaming young girls. See, he wants to identify these people. Yeah, well, it's really exemplary behavior for a state representative. But besides that, you think the protesters are shaming them? See, this man has absolutely no understanding about abortion, about what goes on in the mind and heart of the very people he thinks he's speaking up for that are going in there to get their abortion. Brian Sims, Democrat, do you think that a person getting up in the morning going to get an abortion is thinking to herself, oh, what a wonderful day this is. I get to exercise my freedom of choice today. Thank you, pro-abortion politicians, for giving it to me. Thank you, Planned Parenthood, for investing tens of millions of dollars to elect Democrat candidates who are going to continue to preserve for me, in the name of the Constitution, in the name of freedom and women's health, this right to choose to do what I want with my body. Thank you all. I'm headed to the abortion clinic with a smile on my face and a song in my heart, waving the flag of freedom, and I'll be out tomorrow marching for that freedom, and I'll be out on election day continuing to vote for those politicians who will keep abortion legal. Do you think for 1 minute that that's what's going through the mind and heart of someone who's going to an abortion clinic? Brian Sims, Democrat. What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? How many people that have made their way into an abortion clinic or have come out after having an abortion have you actually spoken to? And have you actually listened to? Just before making this broadcast, I was just on a national conference call with the coordinators of our Silent No More campaign, many of them who've had abortions, and we work with people who've had abortions every day of the year. We know their stories. We know what goes through their mind, through their heart. And we know it's not what you think it is. You think that some young girls praying and protesting outside of a Planned Parenthood are the ones who shame the clients that go in there for their abortion? Do you really think that they are the ones shaming them? Oh, no. Wanting to have an abortion, feeling that there's no alternative. It's not that they even want it. It's that they feel trapped. As feminist pro-life author Frederica Matthews Green said many years ago, people don't get an abortion. They don't choose an abortion like they choose an ice cream or a Porsche. They choose abortion like an animal caught in a trap chooses to gnaw off its own leg. You don't think they know it's wrong? You don't think they know that this is the saddest and most tragic day of their life? You don't think they already have the shame that abortion brings? And that they're not going to live with that shame all the rest of their lives? And you think 3 young girls who are offering them help, who are speaking to them the truth, who are trying to stop them from making the biggest mistake of their life, that they're the ones introducing shame that wasn't there before? Wow. On to the next thing, friends. That's not the last of what we're going to hear about this guy. Believe me. So, when a Democrat-controlled House of Representatives, and hey, listen, Don't blame me for unloading on the Democrats. This is all stuff they initiated, not me. I didn't send this man out there to harass those pro-life protesters. I didn't do what I'm about to explain to you that the Democrats in the House of Representatives did. Don't blame me. Here we go. Disaster relief. House of Representatives is putting forth a bill to provide disaster relief for areas of the country that have been hard hit by storms and fires. Very appropriate thing to do, right? Very necessary thing to do. Well, what do you think this $13 billion proposal puts into the minds of the House Democrat leaders? Housing? Do you think that their mind is going to housing? Do you think their mind is going to infrastructure? Do you think their mind is going to better medical treatment and restoration of the communities that have been damaged? Their mind is going to abortion. They want to find a way. The bill number here, by the way, is H.R. 2157. They want to find a way to get money to Planned Parenthood. They did the same thing back a few years ago when Congress tried to get money into the fight against the Zika virus. Instead of funding the vaccine, the liberals wanted to divert the money to the abortion business. This is unbelievable. What they're looking at is the SSBG, the Social Security block grants, $250 million that can fund in part health care services, okay, as part of this disaster relief. And they want it to go to Planned Parenthood facilities. Now, don't let them fool you when they say, oh, it's already illegal to use this money for abortion. It's not a question of using the money directly for abortion. It's a question of sending the money to an organization that does abortions so that they use that money for whatever they use it for, and it frees up the equivalent amount of money for them to channel into abortion. If they do abortions, they do abortions. And this is what Planned Parenthood does all the time. All right, this is unbelievable. We see it at the United Nations. Priests for Life is an NGO at the United Nations. Right now we're involved in various meetings that are going on, and every once in a while we'll bring our United Nations representatives onto this program to talk about the work that we're doing there. And every time any topic comes up of helping people in any part of the world, the left wants to fund abortion. Now, thank you, Bright Tuber, for asking a very important question. What can we do to help? Simple answer to that. Sign up for our action alerts at stopabortionnow.org, because every time things like this arise, we're going to send out an action alert. And if you're getting those alerts, you'll be able to know the phone call to make to the appropriate authority, state level, federal level, the letter to write, the information to post on social media, the thing to tell your pastor. In other words, there's always action that we can do aimed at raising awareness so that then people can take the appropriate action, whether it's voting, lobbying an elected official, simply exposing, like Catholicity Channel is saying, amen, Father, thank you for exposing him. He's doing a pretty good job exposing himself, and that's why I said to him, keep it up. We need to see this extremism. But look at the extremism here. So you and I, what we can do, it starts with making people aware of this, because I believe that the American people still have, in vast majorities, enough of a conscience to reject this garbage when they see it, to reject this extremism, to reject this bloodshed, to reject this if and when they see it. And that's the point. If and when they see it, they reject it. So our job is to expose it. And it starts with receiving the information from groups like ours and then communicating it to your friends, to your neighbors, to your coworkers, to your family, to your social media, to your pastor, and then to your elected officials. And let them know you're keeping an eye out on all of this. And what can we do to help? We've got to vote pro-life. ProLifeVote.com is our election website. And right now, you can go there and you can sign up and say, I want to help with the 2020 elections. And very soon we're going to be resuming our what we call our Pro-Life MAGA broadcasts here on this channel. And we're going to be looking at every aspect of the elections and what you can do about it and how you can expose the extremism. Sign up today. We need to gather an army is what we need to do, and you can be part of that army. We have a lot of things for you to do. And the ProLifeVote.com is the place to sign up for the election activity. We need to register voters. We need to let them know the extremism on the state level that you saw here and on the federal level that you saw here as well, what I just told you. A bill for disaster relief, and the Democrats want to use it to fund the abortion industry? Are you kidding me? But that's the kind of people we've got. When we, unfortunately, you know, friends, it's unfortunately so true now, so solidified and entrenched and dogmatic is the Democrat Party when it comes to abortion, that it is completely true and valid to say, you keep electing Democrats and this kind of extremism will continue. This is simply the way it is. It's simply the way it is. So, let me talk about something else that happened today, something great that happened today. Our pastoral associate, Alveda King, evangelist Alveda King, was with the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, as he signed into law a bill that has been passed in other states as well. The generic term, the heartbeat bill, is used to describe these kinds of laws. And recently the governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, whom I know, signed into law a similar bill. In Georgia, they called it the Life Act. Listen what this law is called. It's a beautiful term. Living Infants Fairness and Equality Act. L-I-F-E. Living infants, because that's what these unborn children are. You know, I'm convinced that sometimes when people hear us talk about unborn children, they think we're talking about children that are going to be conceived and born 10 years from now or 100 years from now. We're talking about unborn. Yeah, children that are going to be conceived 10 years from now are unborn. They haven't been born. But the unborn that we're talking about when we use the word in the pro-life movement are the children that are already living. So the Life Act that was signed into law today in the state of Georgia is called Living Infants. That's what we're talking about. Fairness and Equality Act. Now, Alveda King was there. She was there representing Priests for Life at the bill signing ceremony. And she and her mom, Naomi King, her brother Derek King, and so many others, have spoken out very clearly that if we're going to talk about equality in our society, if we're going to talk about fairness, if we're going to talk about equal protection, if we're going to talk about nonviolence, and these are key themes that the civil rights heroes and heroines of our day, those that marched and worked with Martin Luther King Jr., Alveda's uncle, in days gone by, speak about, well, then we have to include the unborn. If we're going to speak about fairness and equality, you know, equality is not equality if you tolerate some inequality. Nonviolence is not nonviolence if you tolerate some violence. You're not committed to nonviolence if you tolerate this. So the point I'm making is, this is a matter of civil rights. Now, some people talk about these laws. These heartbeat laws basically say you're going to protect the baby when you can detect a heartbeat. We'll get back to that in a moment. But what's going on here is this. People sometimes often refer to these laws as restrictive laws. They're restricting abortion. Or some will say, like I'm sure our friend here, Brian Sims, Democrat, will say, oh, well, yes, you're restricting a woman's right to choose, do what she wants with her own body. Body, did you say? People will call it a ban on abortion. Yeah, technically that's true. But the law that protects your body, my body, from someone on the street slashing us with a knife, well, it's a ban on knife slashing, right? It's a restriction on knife slashing. Is that the primary way that we refer to it? No, that's not the primary reality of what's going on. The primary reality of what's going on is that you're protected and I'm protected. So when we think about these laws, okay, so today a heartbeat bill was signed into law by Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia. Of course, come to think of it, there's another person in Georgia that thinks she won that election. When is she going to wake up, by the way? But that aside, the Democrats are always living in unreality. They're protective laws. Don't talk about them as restrictive. It's protective. And don't think of it primarily as a ban. Think about it as an expansion of the people that we're welcoming unto the protection of the law. That's what these bills do. They don't ban as a primary psychological category, linguistic category of how we talk about it. They expand. They include. They're more inclusive laws. Who will be included in the circle we draw of humanity and fairness and equality and protection and love? Who will be included in that? And what this bill is saying is very interesting, these heartbeat bills. They're saying as soon as you can detect the heartbeat of that baby, and the word detect is very important for a reason that I'm about to explain, these babies are protected under the law. Okay. The reason I say detect is an important word, my friends, is because the heart starts beating way before you can detect the beating. Just like the baby starts moving way before the mom can feel the movement. The heart starts beating at 21 days after conception. 3 weeks after conception, that heart starts beating. Now, when you say detect a heartbeat, there are various methodologies that you can use to detect the heartbeat. Doppler instruments will enable you to hear that heartbeat, and Doppler instruments can be applied in two different ways. They can be there's the transvaginal Doppler and there's the transabdominal Doppler. Transvaginal, you can detect the heartbeat that way at about 6 weeks. Transabdominal, a little bit later than that, and sometimes people in a general way will draw that at 12 weeks. So these laws, these heartbeat bills, when they're signed into law, unless the law specifies otherwise, we talk about the detection of a heartbeat. For all practical purposes, you're protecting babies as early as 6 weeks of development. That's pretty early. That's a lot of babies. Most of the abortions obviously take place in the first trimester of pregnancy, but this is even early in the first trimester. And the earliness of the the age of these babies that these laws would protect, if they become law, is precisely what also causes the other side to say, oh, we're going to challenge these in court because this is unconstitutional. Because the Supreme Court has said in Roe v. Wade and in its progeny of other decisions that you can't interfere with the so-called right to have an abortion prior to, quote, viability. And I say quote because viability is a moving target. And it's getting earlier and earlier, and we've had doctors on this program very recently talking to us about babies surviving very well. Certainly, I mean, at 24 weeks, you've got good survival. Even doctors talking to us here about babies being born and surviving at 21 weeks. The point is that viability is a moving target. But the earlier you go in the pregnancy, the more the state and the courts are going to claim that you can't interfere with the so-called right of abortion. Not only that, but the courts have also adopted this undue burden standard so that if a limitation on abortion creates a situation where people cannot find an abortion easily, then the court considers that a constitutional issue and say, well, we can't make it so difficult to get an abortion and cause this, quote, undue burden. But all of this begs the question, doesn't it? Because if people are going to say, well, a bill like this is unconstitutional, well, that requires you to think that Roe v. Wade equals the Constitution, which it doesn't. Even a very long-standing precedent, like Roe v. Wade is, something that is precedent upon precedent, that's something that is being reaffirmed by the court many times. Well, it's been 46 years. Can that be reversed? Of course it can. Can a precedent like that, long-standing, be overturned by a subsequent Supreme Court? Oh, of course it can. Two of the justices now sitting on the Supreme Court co-authored a book called The Law of Judicial Precedent. I have it over in the other room. It's about this thick. And they talk about the circumstances under which a long-standing precedent can be reversed. One of those is that the decision that needs to be reversed meets with strong and sustained public criticism or protest. Do you know that even sitting federal judges in issuing other kinds of abortion-related decisions have severely criticized Roe v. Wade more than any other opinion? It is under severe criticism in the courts. It is under severe criticism in law schools, even by pro-abortion scholars. It is under severe criticism, this Roe v. Wade decision, by public protest. So it's not logical to say that Roe v. Wade equals the Constitution. What is logical to say is that the courts have the opportunity, have the right, sometimes have the duty, to re-examine whether something that was once considered constitutional should be so considered going forward. Now, those who are backing the heartbeat bills, and these have been passed, as I said, today in Georgia, recently in Ohio, bills like this have been signed into law in Mississippi, North Dakota, Arkansas, Iowa. Some of them have been struck down by the courts. But when people are supporting bills like this, I mean, they know full well what the courts have said about when abortion may or may not be restricted by the state, but the idea precisely is that they are challenging that. But it's important for us to realize that whether and how Roe v. Wade will be reversed depends on a willing court. You have to have a willing court. In other words, the justices on the Supreme Court, and the court is, as currently composed, has 9 justices. Those justices have to be willing not only to reverse Roe v. Wade based on a case that is brought before them, and by the way, it doesn't have to be any particular kind of abortion case. It can be any case in having anything to do with abortion, because any case that has something to do with abortion is inherently pointing back to Roe v. Wade, because the only reason the abortions are happening legally is because of Roe v. Wade. So in 1992, when the court almost reversed Roe v. Wade, it was in reference to a bill that did not go to the core of Roe v. Wade. It was a Pennsylvania law that had to do with notification about abortion and various other provisions in the law that were regulating abortion, but not going to the core question of whether or not the Constitution requires the freedom to have one. So any abortion-related case can be used by a willing court to reconsider or even reverse Roe v. Wade. The point is, what would give rise to that willingness? Simply that an argument can be made that Roe should be reversed? A lot of judges that believe that Roe v. Wade was wrongly decided may not, just because they have a good argument, be quite willing yet to reverse it, because to reverse it, they know full well, as you and I do, means a major public change, a major change that would, well, let's put it this way. It would bring people like Representative Brian Sims, Democrat, out of the woodwork all over the place. The crazies would go crazier. The radicals would be even more radical. Now, I'm not saying that that's a reason not to do it, or that we should be afraid of that. What I'm saying is, judges might not be willing quite yet to make a reversal, even if they have a good argument. They might not yet be willing to introduce the social change that would result until, A, there's a stronger majority on the court itself, and B, the attitude of the public has sufficiently changed to be ready and willing to accept such a change in public policy. Notice what I'm saying. I'm simply helping you understand the mindset of many who sit on the courts. That a reversal of Roe v. Wade has to come at its proper time. A change in public opinion must happen. We need to accelerate that. We need to put our foot on the gas pedal and raise our voices even louder and have more broadcasts like this to really change the public opinion. We need to let people see, as I always say, America will not reject abortion until America sees abortion. And the change in public opinion is happening. We have to accelerate that. But also, I say that the judges are also going to look at, well, by what kind of majority would Roe v. Wade be reversed? And it was passed on a 7-2 vote. It would seem that a reversal of it needs to have a very strong majority. A 5-4 decision by the Supreme Court is basically a split down the middle. And a 5-4 decision could, in a few years, with the right kind of presidential and Senate elections, and another case on the same topic, be reversed. And that would be, you talk about a lot of social upheaval, for Roe v. Wade to be reversed and then for the reversal to be reversed a few years later. I mean, now you're talking about some major shifting of the ground. So we want to do it in a way that's going to stick. We want to do it in a way that's going to have a solid foundation. And the point is, we're all working to achieve that. So people come to different conclusions. They say, well, we rather than have laws that are going to be struck down right away, let's have laws that give the court a little bit more leeway, even in the current jurisprudence on abortion, to chip away, weaken, modify Roe v. Wade and get us closer to the point where both public opinion and judicial opinion is ready for a reversal. And that's why you see bills like the pain-capable bill and the protection from dismemberment abortion bills that are also being introduced and passed in the states. In fact, these are being introduced at the federal level, have been introduced at the federal level as well. And if cases like that go before the Supreme Court, well, a willing court can use that to reverse Roe altogether, but a willing court can also use that to severely weaken Roe and to say, for example, yes, It is constitutional for a state to say children are going to be protected from dismemberment abortion. Court can say that. Supreme Court can say that. And that deeply modifies, very significantly changes the policy of Roe v. Wade, which is abortion on demand. Very significantly would change that. If the court said, yes, these dismemberment bills that are coming up through the states do indeed, and the Supreme Court may, in fact, be getting ready to accept one of these cases about these dismemberment laws, it could be a serious step forward in a modification of Roe v. Wade like we've never seen before. So people in the legal world are going to have different opinions about what the best way is to proceed. However, as I've always said, when the people of a state want to take action to protect their unborn children, and their elected representatives vote to do so, and their duly elected governor is committed to do so as well and will sign that bill into law, then they should do it. And this is what we have happened just today in the state of Georgia, the Life Act, Living Infants, Fairness, and Equality Act. Well, we're going to see more of this happening in the states, as well as the other kinds of laws, which will probably have a different trajectory in the courts. Let's keep informed. Let's keep in contact with one another. Let's keep telling other people about all of this. And let's keep exposing to people the fact that every abortion stops a beating heart. Every abortion tears apart a living body. Every abortion is violence. And therefore, Brian Sims, Democrat, it is not we who protest abortion who are crazy. It is not we who protest abortion who are shaming people. It's you who are supporting it. It's you who are supporting it. Do us all a favor. Get out of public office. We don't need people in public office who don't know the difference between serving the public and killing the public. And voters, vote them out. Vote them out of public office. Once and for all, can we please stop being confused about what we need to do in the voting booth? Let me conclude with this thought. Candidate comes along and says, I support terrorism. Just go along with me for a moment, conceptually. Candidate comes along, I support terrorism. The terrorists have a right to do what they have done. Response from the voters is going to be what? Do you think that the voters are going to say, well, sir, I disagree with you on terrorism, but tell me about your health care plan. I disagree with you on terrorism, but, that's just one issue. What's your education plan? Nope. That is not going to be the response. The response is going to be, are you kidding me? Why in the world do you think you're going to get even a single vote? You may in fact have a good education plan or a health care plan, but what difference does that make? If you are putting yourself forward to be elected to public office and you support terrorism, how can you even do that? They would be completely disqualified even from consideration. You really think this is any better than terrorism? Same thing. What difference does it make if you use, to kill innocent human beings, if you use airplanes flying into buildings or surgical forceps tearing arms and legs apart? Which is more wrong? Using an airplane or using the forceps? Which is more wrong? Killing a person who's 5 feet tall or 5 inches tall? Come on, friends. Let's wake people up about this. Well, tomorrow, I'm going to be broadcasting in the morning. Join me at 9 o'clock in the morning. We'll have more to say. And then tomorrow night, I want to ask you to join me right here at 8 o'clock Eastern Time for a live broadcast from the President of the United States. President Trump is going to have a rally right here in Florida, and I want to watch it with you. Let's watch it together. This is so important. You know, whatever you think of any elected official, listen to what they have to say. And this is what we do. You know, people ask me, well, what about this administration? What is he saying? What is he doing? Well, listen to him. He's speaking out. Listen to what the president is going to say tomorrow night. Go to the White House website, whitehouse.gov, and read what the administration is doing for your protection and mine and for the protection of the babies. Shouldn't we go to the original sources and listen to what they have to say? So I want to, tomorrow night, invite you to watch the president's rally. And you can watch it right here on this channel that you're watching now. We're broadcasting on multiple channels. And let's hear what our president has to say. So God bless you, friends. Thank you so much for listening to me tonight and for sharing the passion that we all have to share. It is passion that we have to have, not just the right ideas, but the passion that goes with them. And that's how we'll get the victory. Well, may the Lord bless you now, protect you and your families, lift up all your concerns to his own heart and show you his love in answering those prayers. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. And as you see at the bottom of the screen, by the way, give us some financial help at prolifegift.org, and give us your prayer intentions at prayerintentions.org. We'll be praying for you every day. God bless you. Father Frank Pavone here of Priests for Life.
But you know what? When you and I take up this call and we talk about abortion, if we speak about it in church, we're told we're too political. If we speak about it in the political arena, we're told we're too religious. If we speak about it in the world of the media, it's too disturbing. In the world of business, it's too distracting. In the world of education, it's too controversial. In the streets, it's too disruptive. So abortion, if abortion is wrong, where do we go to say so? We go into the churches, we go into politics, into the media, into business, into education, and into the streets. Some churches haven't wanted to get involved in political hassles with the government, so they've been silent on abortion. They didn't want to get involved in hassles from the government. They didn't want to take the fight to the government. So now with the HHS mandate, the government took the fight to them. And when it comes to that mandate, we've got to